When arranging this particular trip of mine that you're watching right now, I had stumbled across a really cheap $39 fare to the Sin City one day from Hotlanta on an airline I don't normally fly that often, Frontier, one of America's ultra low-cost carriers. I knew what I'd get myself into when booking these guys, but what I didn't expect was how empty of a flight this would turn out to be. While Frontier has a fair share of flights from ATL, they are nowhere near Southwest, and just a speck compared to Delta at North America's busiest airport, one that I've had the opportunity to fly out of quite a bit recently. Hartsfield-Jackson Airport is currently made up of 7 parallel concourses, connected together by the plane train you saw me riding in the intro. The first 5 of them reserved for domestic flights, the E concourse being Delta's international and domestic wide-body terminal, and the last F concourse being ATL's international terminal. I'll be flying out tonight from concourse D here, specifically at gate D1, all the way down at the end. Now, probably my favorite aspect of flying Frontier is their tail liveries, different on each plane. My A320neo I'll be on today, and 372FR is nicknamed Watson the Key Deer. At the time of filming, only a 3-month-old aircraft delivered to Frontier in September of 2020.
Attention passengers, Spirit and Frontier is boarding at the same time. Flight is boarding rows 6 through 31 at this time.
Well, after chowing down on my Chick-fil-A, it was time to board. Now, during the heart of the pandemic, Frontier Airlines was the only U.S. airline to take temperature checks of all its passengers prior to boarding. They also boarded from front to back by row number, which quickly transitioned to the front numbers, as you'll soon see. Pretty good. And behold, my seats for the cross-country flight tonight, 18D, E, and F. Originally, I was assigned 14C, but since I knew this would be a empty-ish flight beforehand, I just snuck my way into this free row. There's no way around the comfiness issue on Frontier. They are by far the worst of all US airlines and the closest thing to a bench you can find in the skies. Seats are slimline, armrests are tiny and hard, and obviously, no recline. Legroom, on the other hand, is actually not bad, due in part to the extreme slimness and natural recline of the seats. One of the major pros of Frontier over Spirit and Allegiant is they do provide real seat back pockets instead of a few straps, which is where the safety card can be found. At this point, no one else was boarding, and I started coming to the realization of how light this flight really was. And then the FA up front called boarding complete. One soul behind me in the back half of the plane. I've been on some pretty light flights in my life, especially during COVID, even having a whole Cessna to myself, but as far as actual jets, this definitely will be the emptiest.
Pull down sharply on the right side on the front or going to the right.
Right on time, we pushed back, spooled the engines up, and would begin our taxi to ATL's runway 26 left for takeoff. I should note the front half of the plane was not empty, so flight attendants moved a lot of folks to the back to balance the plane out, as it was quite tipsy-turvy with like literally 99% of passengers being up front. Shortly after takeoff, flight attendants began passing through the cabin asking the few passengers on board if they'd like to purchase any food or drinks. At the time, there was an extremely limited menu on Frontier, so I chose not to get anything, but if I did, it would have went on this tray table, the most useless and tiniest in the skies, something every US ultra low-cost carrier finds the need to have. Not only is there hardly any space to fit food on, it obviously doesn't extend outward either, which means unless your laptop is the size of a Nintendo, you'll have to use your lap. What really angers me is how they acclaim that these tiny metal tray tables save weight on board. I mean, since when is metal lighter than plastic? Thankfully, Spirit at least is getting some common sense and equipping their newest planes with slightly larger trays. Since flying time to Vegas is almost 4 hours, and I didn't get much sleep last night, decided to take advantage of all this space and sleep for a bit.
After the hour, so that's about a half hour early. That's pretty good, 10:30 instead of 11:09. So thanks for being with us. If you need to use the restroom, do that now. Seatbelt sign will come on or remain on for the approach into McCarran Field. Parking in the D gates, D21, aircraft going on to Chicago.
Well, I think I might just have to take up that captain's advice and head back to the lav. On Frontier A320neos, there are 3 lavatories on board, 1 up front, 2 in the back, this being one of those. Obviously, with only 3 months of wear and tear, this lavatory looks really nice, but honestly, with some of the lighting spread throughout it, a decently sized sink, and fairly good space, it's not half bad in general. If you couldn't tell from some of the earlier shots, there are a lot of seats squished in on this plane, 186 in total. But believe it or not, there could be even more. 24 of those are considered stretch seats, with additional legroom available for purchase. Thankfully, tonight was a great night to fly, and after getting a few hours of shut-eye, Las Vegas's lights began to appear out ahead, and half an hour early at that too. Flight time was still 3 hours and 53 minutes though, which if you are on a full flight during the day, will probably get quite boring as there are no PTVs, no free entertainment, or any entertainment, and no Wi-Fi on board. If you don't download something beforehand, you are screwed. That's one of the drawbacks of these cheap airlines. And me tonight, besides laying down for a while and editing a bit, only other thing to do was stare out into the void of blackness. The Sin City though is anything but that, and before we knew it, 'twas time to land into LAS's runway 19 left. There is nothing like a Vegas landing at night. So, Frontier Airlines, are they worth flying? For $40 across the country with no checked luggage and a whole row to myself? Absolutely, 100%. But if you find that the same exact route is priced evenly with a JetBlue, Alaska, or Delta, pick the alternative. Believe me, nowadays travel is returning to normal, flights are full again, and you will not have this luxurious experience I had tonight. However, if you are on a budget, can travel light, only need to head somewhere for a few days, and are prepared beforehand with what to expect on board, the bare bones experience, then by all means, choose Frontier. They are a growing, safe, and fairly reliable airline I've found, with a very new fleet, much hipper and more younger employees versus most others, and some pretty cool tail liveries. Personally, they are my least favorite airline, but I will say I have yet to have a truly terrible experience on them, so do take that into account.
Good night.
Good night.
Apart there right now. Just lost to the Bengals. I don't know what's happening. We were 11-0 and now we're 11-3.
Oh, Chris, if you only knew what would come a few weeks later. And honestly, not much has changed this year with the old Stillas. Anyways, that'll conclude this empty Frontier flight tonight on their A320neo from Atlanta to Vegas. Currently on my way to my hotel for the night, where I'll then fly back east tomorrow afternoon and finally finish up the disastrous year that was 2020. Hope you guys enjoyed, and catch you on the next one.